children's programmer here at the Amy Branch Library of the Tangipahoa Parish Library System. Today, I've got some stories that I want to talk to you guys about, tell you guys about, book talk a little bit. All of these stories and books are in honor of our summer reading program theme, which this year is Imagine Your Story. So we're celebrating fairy tales, fables, tall tales, true tales, fantasy worlds, magical worlds, all kinds of fun stuff. Today I'm going to share with you guys some Cajun fairy tales, and I'm also going to quickly show you guys some other types of stories that we have too. So a lot of these books are stories that you probably already know, you've grown up hearing: Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Three Little Pigs. But these authors have taken these stories and added a Cajun twist to them. A lot of Louisiana flavor is in these books, which makes them really fun since we live here in Louisiana. So if you aren't familiar with what a Cajun is, it was a group of people brought to Louisiana from France. They were called Acadians in the 1700s. They were brought here, and hopefully you can see it. At the bottom here is where those people were brought to. The lower part of Louisiana, all by the bayous, the marshes. Lower Louisiana is where most of the Cajun people were. Now when they got there, they realized that that land was already inhabited by the Spanish people. So once those two cultures started to blend, the French and the Spanish, it eventually gave birth to the Cajun people, the Cajun culture. They have a really unique way of talking, which when you read these books, you'll be able to get a good taste of it. Some of you might have Cajun people in your family that you already know this accent. It's a really particular kind of accent. If you aren't familiar with that accent, you can go on YouTube. There's a lot of really funny YouTube videos where they speak in Cajun. I'll try with some of these books, but I'm not that good at it, even though my grandmother was Cajun French. So she had a little bit of an accent. She cooked really good. Our foods like gumbos and jambalaya, our etouffees, come from the Cajun people. So yeah, I invite you guys, if you aren't familiar, you and your families can learn a little bit more about it. That's what I loved about these books, especially in Cendrillon, which is the Cajun Cinderella. There's a lot of really historic Louisiana landmarks in here. So I think over the summer it would be fun if you read some of these stories together as a family and maybe took a road trip to see some of these places in Louisiana and maybe even make some really good gumbo or red beans. In Cendrillon, there's actually a red beans and rice recipe at the end of the book, which is really cool. So I think that would make a really fun summer activity for you, you and your family if you aren't really familiar with the Cajun culture. And if you aren't sure if you have any Cajun ancestry, you can go to our website at tangilibrary.com. We have a genealogy website from there that you can go to, and you guys can explore your family history and see if any of you guys are a little bit of Cajun. So, just going to talk a little bit about these books. Like I said, this one right here is Cendrillon. I know it's not pronounced how it really looks. That's what I love about this book in particular. It takes the classic story of Cinderella that we know with her glass slipper, and it gives it a very heavy Cajun Louisiana flavor. The thing that I love most about this book is that it does have the Cajun, like a glossary that'll tell you the words and how to say it and what those words mean. These two books have a glossary, but it doesn't have a pronunciation guide. And if you go on YouTube and look up those videos and hear those people speak, you need to know how to pronounce it. Some things are a little hard if you don't have a pronunciation key. But this book does, so it makes it reading it really fun. It's a really good learning experience too. So like I said, it takes the classic story of Cinderella with her horrible stepsisters and her horrible stepmom. In this book, she befriends, instead of woodland creatures, it's swamp creatures. She has an alligator friend, a crawfish friend, a crab friend, and those are the ones that make her dress for her. Instead of a regular ball that she attends, it's the very popular Mardi Gras ball, Rex, which I really loved that part of the book too, since I'm from New Orleans. And it really is very similar, just with all the different Cajun words. So like her fairy godmother is her fairy marraine, which is godmother in Cajun, in French. So there's her little crawfish guys, they become her carriage. And it really does follow the story very well, but like I said, with just a really Louisiana flavor. There's the French Quarter in it, there's St. Louis Cathedral, there's a streetcar, and your red beans and rice recipe. This is what made me think that it would be cool to check out some of these stories and kind of go on a road trip and end it with some really good food. So I really do love this story. If you guys love the story of Cinderella, you would really love Cendrillon. Like I said, it's fun just to read together. These two, Petite Rouge is a Cajun Red Riding Hood. It was written by Mike Artell. He actually does a few books in this Louisiana Cajun theme. There's the Three Little Cajun Pigs. Like I said, in both of these, it takes stories that we already know and gives them a really Louisiana flavor. These two are really, really fun because they rhyme, so it makes it even more fun to try to, whoop, of course, it makes it even more fun to try to read these stories when they rhyme like that, and you have to try to use those silly little accent. They're really, really fun. This one actually has a brief history of the Cajun people in the beginning of the book to try to give you a little bit more idea of why these books are written in the style that they are written in. The thing that I loved about these two is instead of the big bad wolf, the bad guy is an alligator. So you see him in both. His name is Claude. He tries to get poor Red Riding Hood and the Three Little Pigs. And even though I'm sure you know what happens with those stories, it's still fun to read them in that accent. And I'll try to read one little piece for you guys. So this is just an excerpt. So you take that cat into Pierrot with you and bring yourself home just as soon as you true. So it's really fun to read. I remember growing up, my mom had a Cajun Night Before Christmas book, and we loved reading that together and speaking in the little accent. So those are just a few of the really cool Louisiana themed stories, fairy tales that we have here at the library for you to check out. I just also wanted to show you guys that there are so many books like this. These fairy tales are kind of twisted and given to us in a different way than we're used to. There's ones like this, Trust Me, Jack's Beanstalk Stinks. It's the true story of Jack and the Beanstalk as told by the giant. These stories are told by different characters than maybe you might be used to. Like this one is the true story of the Three Little Pigs as told by the wolf. Really funny books to share. And then this one is, honestly, Red Riding Hood was rotten. The true story of Little Red Riding Hood as told by the wolf. So we have a lot of books like this, like that, if you guys are interested in. But we also have, for some of you readers who might want something a little more challenging, we have a lot of books like this as well. Some of you guys might have read these before. I know these two right here are pretty popular. The author of this one's called Jack. It's written by Lysel Shirtliff. The very first book in this series she did was called Rump, and it's written from the perspective of Rumpelstiltskin when he was younger. This one is about Jack. and Jack's story before he got those magic beans and found the beanstalk. I think there's only 3 in this series. There's a Red Riding Hood one also. What's cool about these is if you go to the author's website, she's got little YouTube videos that go along with the book. And I always love when I can pair a book along with some kind of fun video. It just kind of enhances the experience a little bit. So these are really cool. We have these. These are probably some of my favorite. I love them now. I really would have loved them when I was younger. These are the Ever After High series. They were created by the same people who created Monster High. There was also a Netflix series based on these books. The thing that I love about these is that it's stories about the characters that we know and grew up with, but it's their kids. So there's characters like Applewhite, who's Snow White's daughter. There's Briar Beauty, she's Sleeping Beauty's daughter. Madeline Hatter, the Mad Hatter's daughter. And there's even Pinocchio's son. All kinds of different characters. There's male characters, female characters, and it's just about them in high school. So I really love these because it's just such a unique, fun way of extending those stories, but adding new characters that are kind of like the ones that we know and love. So I really suggest these, and you can watch the show too. And the last one I want to show you guys, which they're really popular right now. We have a lot of different ones of these, which makes it really fun. They're the Land of Stories series by Chris Colfer. This one's just kind of a handbook to all the other books. But in these stories, there's 2 twins, Alex and Connor Bailey, and they fall from the real world into the fairy tale world. And so when they're in the fairy tale world, they're used to all these people like Goldilocks and the fairy godmother and Sleeping Beauty and Mother Goose. They know who these people are, but once they get to the fairy tale world, they realize that these characters are not really quite like they were in the stories that we are used to hearing. So Chris Colfer describes it as a modern day fairy tale, and it really is. It's really a fun mix of blending the modern world in with the fairy tale world, which is kind of a little dated by now. You know, these stories are a little older. This brings a little fresh, interesting twist to them. This one's really cool because it's got a bunch of colorful illustrations. There's Mother Goose on a talk show. There's this whole thing about Goldilocks. These are really cool. I love these. There's so many to these series, and this was one of the other ones that they had. This is the Mother Goose Diaries. And so this is Mother Goose's diary from when she was younger. So we all know Mother Goose as being older and all of her fairy tales and stories that she's given us, but this shows us where Mother Goose got her stories from. It's her diary. So these are really fun. That's my most favorite thing about the theme this summer, is taking stories that we are used to and we've heard so many times and we've seen so many times, and giving with these books, we are able to see these universes, these characters in so many different lights. And maybe after reading these, you guys can come up with your own versions of these stories and their characters. So I hope you guys take the time to check some of these out. You can call us and we'll put any of these books on hold for you. If you want to call me, Miss Brittany, and get some recommendations on books that you might like, please feel free to go to our website, tangilibrary.com. From there, you can find the AMEET branch information, and that's how you would get in touch with me. You can call me anytime, and I will gladly help you guys find really cool books like this, or any kind of books you might be interested in this summer. So I thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys read some of these books, especially the Cajun ones. I hope you guys get you some gumbo. Thank you guys. Hope to see you guys soon.